The one habit that will change your life overnight there is a moment in your life when you have to stop asking, what do other people expect from me? And start asking, what do I expect from myself? Because the relationship you have with yourself determines the direction of your entire life. Every day you make promises to yourself. You say, tomorrow I'll start. Tomorrow I'll wake up earlier. Tomorrow I'll finish that project. Tomorrow I'll stop wasting my time. And then tomorrow comes and the promise disappears. You postpone it again. You make another excuse. You tell yourself you'll do it later. The problem isn't just that the task remains unfinished. The deeper problem is that every broken promise teaches your mind that your own words don't mean much. But the opposite is also true. When you make a promise to yourself and keep it, something powerful begins to happen. You build self-trust. You begin to believe that when you say you are going to do something, you will actually do it. You don't need to make 10 promises every morning. Make one. Choose one important action and commit to completing it today. Keep it realistic, meaningful, and completely within your control. Maybe you decide to spend 30 minutes learning something valuable. Maybe you decide to organize your work, finish an assignment, practice a skill, read, or spend focused time working toward a personal goal. Then do it. Even when you don't feel motivated. Especially when you don't feel motivated. Because the goal isn't simply to complete the task. The goal is to build the identity of someone who follows through. There will be days when you're tired. There will be days when you're distracted. There will be days when your mind tells you that you can start tomorrow. That's exactly when keeping your promise matters most. You don't have to feel powerful before you act. Sometimes action comes first and confidence comes afterward. Think about how different your life could become if you kept one meaningful promise to yourself every day for an entire year. One promise becomes 7. 7 become 30. 30 become hundreds of completed actions. And those actions begin changing your skills, your confidence, your habits, and eventually your results. This is how real transformation happens. Not through one massive decision, but through repeated decisions that prove you are serious about the person you want to become. And don't make the mistake of choosing a promise so big that you constantly fail to keep it. Start small. Make it so clear that there is no confusion about what success looks like. Your goal is consistency, not perfection. If you miss one day, don't turn one mistake into a week of excuses. Get back to it the next day. A strong person isn't someone who never falls behind. A strong person is someone who refuses to stay there. Every promise you keep becomes evidence. Evidence that you are disciplined. Evidence that you are capable. Evidence that you can trust yourself. And once you trust yourself, you stop needing constant approval from everyone around you. You stop waiting for someone else to push you. You begin creating your own momentum. So tonight, decide what your one promise will be tomorrow. Make it important. Make it achievable. And most importantly, keep it. Because the life you want may not require you to become a completely different person overnight. It may simply require you to become a person who finally keeps the promises they make to themselves. Stop waiting for the perfect feeling before you begin. Stop telling yourself that you need more motivation, more confidence, more time, or better circumstances. If you keep waiting until everything feels right, you may spend years standing at the starting line. Motivation is useful, but it is unreliable. Some days you will feel energized and excited about your goals. Other days, you will feel tired, distracted, or uncertain. If your progress depends entirely on how you feel, your progress will always be inconsistent. Action changes that. You don't need to feel motivated to take the first step. You only need to decide that the first step is worth taking. Think about how often you have delayed something important because you weren't in the mood. You wanted to study, but you weren't motivated. You wanted to work on your project, but you didn't feel inspired. You wanted to improve yourself, but you told yourself that you would start tomorrow. Tomorrow becomes next week. Next week becomes next month. And eventually, the goal remains exactly where you left it. The solution is simple. Act before you feel ready. Don't wait for motivation to appear. Create momentum through movement. Open the book. Write the first paragraph. Practice the skill. Organize the plan. Complete one small task. Once you begin, resistance often becomes smaller. The hardest part is frequently not doing the entire task. It's starting. Your mind may create 100 reasons to delay. Listen carefully, but don't let every thought become an instruction. You can feel uncomfortable and still move forward. You can feel uncertain and still begin. You can have doubts and still take the next step. That is what discipline looks like. Discipline isn't about being perfect every day. It's about continuing to act towards something meaningful, even when your emotions are not cooperating. And here's something important. Don't make your first step unnecessarily huge. If you're struggling to start, make the action smaller. Tell yourself you'll work for 10 minutes. Focus on one page. Complete one section. Take one useful step. Small action breaks the cycle of hesitation. Then something begins to happen. You gain momentum. Momentum creates confidence. Confidence makes the next action easier. The process continues. You stop seeing yourself as someone who is always planning and start seeing yourself as someone who executes. That's a powerful identity shift. Your future will not be built by everything you intend to do. It will be built by what you repeatedly do. You can have the best plan in the world, but a plan without action remains only an idea. You can watch hundreds of motivational videos, read countless books, and collect endless advice. But knowledge only becomes valuable when you apply it. So stop asking, do I feel motivated? Ask a better question. What can I do right now? Then do that. Don't worry about completing the entire journey today. Your responsibility is to take today's step. Tomorrow will bring another step. There will always be distractions. There will always be obstacles. There will always be moments when you doubt yourself. But you don't need perfect conditions to make progress. You need movement. Take action when you're confident. Take action when you're uncertain. Take action when the task feels easy. Take action when it feels difficult. Because every time you act, instead of delay, you strengthen the habit of moving forward. And one day, you will look back and realize that the life you wanted didn't begin when you finally felt motivated. It began when you decided to move anyway. The first hour of your day is more valuable than you realize. It is the moment when your mind is beginning to focus. Your attention is still fresh, and the direction of your day is being established. If you give that hour away to distractions, you may spend the rest of the day trying to regain control. But if you take ownership of it, you create a powerful foundation for everything that follows. You don't need a complicated morning routine. You don't need to wake up at an extreme hour. You simply need to stop, allowing the first part of your day to happen automatically. When you wake up, don't immediately give your attention to notifications, endless scrolling, random videos, or other people's priorities. Before the world starts demanding your attention, give yourself a few moments to decide what actually matters today. Ask yourself, what is important? What needs to be completed? What kind of person do I want to be today? Those questions create direction. Your first hour should not be about doing everything. It should be about doing something meaningful. Read a few pages. Review your goals. Write down your priorities. Learn something useful. Organize your schedule. Work quietly on an important project. Even a small amount of focused effort can change the way you approach the rest of the day. The key is intention. Most people don't lose their entire day in one dramatic decision. They lose it through small distractions. 5 minutes of scrolling becomes 20. 20 becomes an hour. Then they wonder where the day went. Your attention is one of your most valuable resources. Once you give it away, you cannot recover the exact moment that passed. That's why winning the first hour matters. When you begin the day by choosing your priorities instead of reacting to distractions, you train your mind to become more deliberate. You stop being controlled by whatever appears in front of you. You begin deciding where your attention goes, and that habit can affect much more than your morning. Imagine starting every day with one meaningful victory. Maybe you complete an important task before checking entertainment. Maybe you study before distractions. Maybe you spend time planning instead of rushing. That small victory creates momentum. You begin the day with evidence that you can control your actions. Don't misunderstand this. Winning your first hour doesn't mean every morning will be perfect. Some days will be messy. Some days you'll wake up late. Some days unexpected responsibilities will appear. The goal isn't perfection. The goal is to build a pattern. If you lose control one morning, don't decide that the entire day is ruined. Reset. Take the next opportunity to make a good decision. You don't need a perfect morning to have a productive day. But you do need to stop treating your mornings as meaningless. Your first hour is a statement about what deserves your attention. If you consistently give your best attention to distractions become stronger. If you consistently give your attention to learning, growth, responsibility, and meaningful goals, those areas become stronger. So tomorrow morning, make one decision before you begin. Don't reach for distraction first. Reach for direction. Choose one important thing you want to accomplish. Give it your attention. Work on it without constantly checking what everyone else is doing. Let the world wait for a little while. Because when you learn to win the first hour, you aren't simply improving your morning. You're practicing how to take control of your life, one day at a time. And when enough controlled days become weeks, and enough weeks become months, you may discover that your life didn't change because of one extraordinary morning. It changed because you finally learned to start ordinary mornings with extraordinary intention. Every day, there is usually something you know you should do, but you keep pushing it away. Maybe it's starting an important project, having a necessary conversation, learning something challenging, organizing your responsibilities, or finally taking the first step toward a goal. You know it matters, but somehow tomorrow always seems easier than today. The problem is that avoidance feels comfortable for a moment, but it makes the burden heavier over time. The longer you avoid something important, the more power it seems to have over you. You think about it repeatedly. You imagine how difficult it will be. You create reasons to postpone it. And while you're avoiding the task, your mind continues carrying the weight of unfinished business. The way forward is not to wait until the task becomes easy. The way forward is to face it. Choose one difficult thing you've been avoiding and take one meaningful step toward completing it. You don't have to solve everything in one day. You don't have to eliminate every obstacle. You simply have to stop running from the first step. Maybe you've been avoiding studying because the subject feels difficult. Open the book and begin with one section. Maybe you've been delaying a project because you don't know where to start. Write down the first 3 actions. Maybe you've been avoiding an important conversation because you're nervous. Prepare what you want to say and approach it calmly and respectfully. Action reduces uncertainty. When you avoid something, your imagination often makes it larger than reality. You picture every possible problem before you've even begun. But once you take action, you finally have real information. You discover what is actually difficult, what can be solved, and what simply required you to begin. This is why doing difficult things builds confidence. Confidence doesn't always come from telling yourself, I can do this. Sometimes it comes from evidence. You face something uncomfortable, and you discover that you survived the discomfort. You complete something you thought you couldn't. You learn something you once considered too difficult. Then your mind remembers. The next challenge arrives, and instead of immediately saying, I can't, you remember, I've handled difficult things before. That is how strength develops. But don't confuse difficulty with unnecessary suffering. The goal isn't to make your life harder just to prove something. The goal is to stop allowing fear, procrastination, or temporary discomfort to control decisions that matter. Choose meaningful difficulty. Choose the work that moves you forward. Choose responsibility over excuses. And start small enough that you can actually begin. One of the most powerful questions you can ask yourself is X. What am I avoiding that'd make my life better if I handled it? The answer may be uncomfortable. That's okay. Write it down. Then ask, what is the smallest useful action I can take today? Do that action. You may not feel transformed immediately, but something important has already changed. You have stopped negotiating with avoidance. And every time you repeat that decision, you strengthen yourself. Eventually, you begin to understand that courage isn't the absence of discomfort. Courage is choosing a meaningful action, even when discomfort is present. The person you want to become is built through these moments. Not when everything is easy. Not when everyone approves. Not when you feel completely ready. But when you have a reason to move forward and decide that temporary discomfort will not determine your future. So identify the one thing you've been avoiding. Stop making another excuse. Stop waiting for the perfect moment. Take the first step today, because the thing you're avoiding may not disappear by itself. But the moment you face it, you begin taking back control. And sometimes the breakthrough you've been waiting for begins with one simple decision. Do the difficult thing you've been avoiding. You don't need to completely transform your life in one day. You don't need to become perfect, master everything, or accomplish every goal immediately. What you need is a willingness to become slightly better than you were yesterday. 1% may sound insignificant, but when you repeat small improvements consistently, they begin to compound. A better decision today leads to another better decision tomorrow. A small skill becomes a useful ability. A good habit becomes part of your identity. Eventually, those small changes create results that once seemed impossible. The biggest mistake people make is looking at the distance between where they are and where they want to be and becoming overwhelmed. They see the entire mountain and decide they can't climb it. Don't focus on the entire mountain. Focus on today's step. If you want to become more knowledgeable, learn something useful today. If you want to improve your discipline, complete one task you promised yourself you would do. If you want to become better at communication, practice listening carefully during your next conversation. If you want to become more organized, put one area of your life in order. Small actions matter because they are repeatable. You don't need an extraordinary amount of energy to improve by 1%. You need consistency. There will be days when you make tremendous progress, and there will be days when your progress feels almost invisible. Don't underestimate those quiet days. Sometimes growth is happening beneath the surface before the results become obvious. Think about learning a new skill. At first, you may struggle. You may make mistakes. You may feel like you're not improving. But every practice session gives your brain another opportunity to learn. Eventually, something that once felt difficult begins to feel natural. That's the power of repetition. Your goal isn't to compare yourself with everyone around you. Your goal is to compare your actions with the person you were yesterday. Ask yourself, what can I do a little better today? Maybe you can spend less time distracted. Maybe you can manage your time more wisely. Maybe you can read instead of endlessly consuming entertainment. Maybe you can replace one unhelpful habit with a healthier one. Maybe you can spend an extra few minutes working towards something that matters. These choices may seem too small to change your life, but your life is made from small choices. Every day, you are becoming something through what you repeatedly do. Your habits are shaping your skills, your mindset, your discipline, and your future. That's why you shouldn't wait for a dramatic turning point. Create your own turning point through daily improvement. And remember, 1% doesn't mean you have to improve in every area every day. Some days, maintaining a good habit is already a victory. Some days, recovering from a mistake is progress. Some days, simply refusing to quit is the improvement you needed. Give yourself room to grow. You are not competing against perfection. You are building consistency. When you make a mistake, learn from it instead of using it as proof that you cannot change. When you fail, ask what the experience can teach you. When something doesn't work, adjust your approach. Improvement requires honesty. You have to be willing to look at your life and say, this isn't working. I need to change something. Then change one thing. Not everything. One thing. Do it again tomorrow, then again the next day. Eventually, those small decisions begin to create a new direction. You become more capable because you practiced. More disciplined because you followed through. More confident because you kept proving to yourself that you could improve. The transformation may not happen overnight, but one day you'll look back and realize that you are no longer the person who started. So don't ask yourself how you can completely change your life today. Ask a better question. Assess. What is one thing I can improve today? Do that one thing. Then come back tomorrow and do it again. Because greatness is rarely created in one giant leap. It is built through thousands of small decisions made when nobody is watching. Improve by 1%. Keep going. And let consistency turn small improvements into a life you can be proud of.